How a Blind Child Changed the World. The story of Braille. In a world that often measures progress by what can be seen, one young boy's blindness would light the way for millions. The system of raised dots we now know as Braille was not handed down from a laboratory or crafted by a committee. It was born from necessity, molded by hardship, and refined by sheer brilliance. Its story, like the man who shaped it, is one of quiet tenacity and unexpected heroes. The story begins not with Louis Braille himself, but with Charles Barbier, a captain in the French army during the Napoleonic Wars. Barbier witnessed firsthand the dangers of communication on the battlefield. Orders shouted aloud at night could easily be overheard by enemies, while lanterns used for reading written notes gave away soldiers' positions. He needed a method of silent, lightless communication, something that could be felt rather than seen. What Barbier developed was called écriture nocturne, or night writing, a system of raised dots and dashes pressed into paper. His invention allowed soldiers to run their fingers across a surface, to interpret messages in the dark. While innovative, it had major flaws. The code used up to 12 dots per character, which was far too complex to read quickly or easily by touch. Soldiers, already trained in other disciplines, found the system too cumbersome for practical use. Still, Barbier believed in its potential and decided to offer it to a different audience: the blind. At the time, blind education was in its infancy. The Royal Institute for Blind Youth in Paris, founded in 1784, was one of the few institutions dedicated to educating blind children. However, their methods were limited. Reading materials were printed in raised Roman letters, bulky, hard to produce, and difficult for fingers to distinguish. Students memorized what little text was available or relied on oral instruction. This was the world that Louis Braille was born into in 1809, in the small town of Couvray, France. The youngest of 4 children, Louis was naturally curious and quick-witted, but a tragic accident would change the course of his life and history. At age 3, while playing in his father's harness workshop, Louis injured his eye with a leather-working tool known as an awl. The wound became infected, and the infection spread to his other eye. By the age of 5, Louis was completely blind. Many would have resigned themselves to a life of dependency, but Louis's family was supportive and determined. With their encouragement and his remarkable intellect, he earned a place at the Royal Institute for Blind Youth at the age of 10. There, he quickly excelled in academics and music, but found deep frustration with the reading system available. The embossed letters were slow to read and even slower to produce. Then, in a twist of fate, Barbier visited the institute and introduced his night writing code. It was designed for soldiers, but it lit a fire in Louis Braille. He recognized immediately that, with refinement, the idea could revolutionize literacy for the blind. At just 12 years old, Louis began experimenting with Barbier's code. He simplified it dramatically, reducing the 12-dot system to just 6 dots, arranged in a 2x3 grid. This 6-dot cell could represent letters, numbers, punctuation, and even musical notes. It was easy to learn, fast to read, and compact enough to fit under a single fingertip. By age 15, Louis had completed the system that would become modern Braille. But innovation often meets resistance. Though Louis continued to develop and teach his system at the institute as he grew older, administrators refused to adopt it officially. Sighted teachers were uncomfortable with a reading system they themselves could not use. They continued to favor embossed Latin characters, which were more familiar to them, even if less effective for their students. Louis Braille never saw his invention fully embraced in his lifetime. He died in 1852 at the age of 43, after a long struggle with tuberculosis. Just 2 years later, in 1854, France officially adopted Braille's system for use in schools for the blind. Over time, it spread across Europe, then the world, adapted into various languages, and even extended to represent math and music. Today, Braille is recognized as a powerful symbol of literacy and independence. It appears on elevator buttons, public signage, medication labels, currency, and more. Despite advances in screen, readers, and voice technology, Braille remains essential. Studies show that blind individuals who learn Braille early are more likely to achieve higher levels of education and employment. It's not just a reading method, it's a gateway to agency and self-expression. There are also deeply human reasons why Braille continues to matter. Touch is the first sense we develop, and for those who are blind, it is often the richest channel of perception. Braille requires one to engage with language slowly, word by word, dot by dot. In an era of rapid swiping and scrolling, it invites us to feel our way through thought, literally. The story of Braille is not just about an alphabet. It is about vision that goes beyond eyesight. It's about how one man's tragedy inspired a tool that empowers others to read, write, study, and communicate on their own terms. And it's about how two people, Barbier the soldier and Braille the blind boy, each saw possibility where others saw limitation. In a poetic twist, the tool that blinded Louis, his father's awl, is the very type of instrument used to punch dots into a Braille slate. What once brought darkness to a child became the symbol of illumination for generations. As we run our fingers across the raised dots of a Braille page, we trace not just letters, but history, marked by resilience, ingenuity, and the quiet power of a child who simply wanted to read a book.
It's time to learn new words in context. 1. Braille. Definition: Braille is a system of raised dots that allows blind or visually impaired people to read and write by touch. Example: she learned to read Braille so she could communicate independently after losing her sight. 2. Sheer. Definition: sheer means very steep, pure, or complete, depending on context. It often emphasizes extremity. Example: the cliff dropped at a sheer angle, making it dangerous to climb without equipment. 3. Tenacity. Definition: tenacity is the quality of being determined and persistent, especially in facing challenges. Example: his tenacity in pursuing education despite financial hardship inspired his entire community. 4. Écriture. Definition: écriture is a French term meaning writing, often used in literary or philosophical discussions to refer to the style or process of writing. Example: the author's écriture blends poetic imagery with sharp social commentary. 5. Nocturne. Definition: a nocturne is a musical composition, usually for piano, that evokes the atmosphere of the night. Example: the pianist played a Chopin nocturne that filled the hall with a calm, dreamlike mood. 6. Cumbersome. Definition: cumbersome describes something large, heavy, or complicated, making it difficult to handle or use. Example: the old machine was too cumbersome to move without a team of workers. 7. Awl. Definition: an awl is a small, pointed tool used for piercing holes in leather or wood. Example: he used an awl to punch holes into the belt before fastening the buckle. 8. Embossed. Definition: embossed means raised or carved in relief, often referring to patterns or letters on a surface. Example: her name was embossed in gold letters on the cover of the graduation diploma. 9. With refinement. Definition: with refinement refers to doing something with elegance, precision, or cultured taste. Example: she performed the ballet routine with refinement, impressing even the strictest judges. 10. Literacy. Definition: literacy is the ability to read and write, and often also refers to competence in a particular area. Example: promoting digital literacy is essential in today's technology-driven world. 11. Grid. Definition: a grid is a network of evenly spaced, horizontal and vertical lines used for organizing space or data. Example: the city was designed in a grid pattern to make navigation easier. 12. Signage. Definition: signage refers to signs or symbols used to convey information, especially in public spaces. Example: the airport signage made it easy for international travelers to find their gates. 13. Gateway. Definition: a gateway is an entrance or means of access, often metaphorically referring to an opportunity or starting point. Example: education is often seen as a gateway to a better life. 14. Resilience. Definition: resilience is the ability to recover quickly from difficulties or adapt well to challenges. Example: her resilience after the natural disaster helped her rebuild her life with courage. 15. Ingenuity. Definition: ingenuity is the ability to think creatively and solve problems in clever ways. Example: the engineer's ingenuity led to a simple but effective design that reduced costs by half.
Comprehension test. Part 1 multiple choice. Choose the best answer. 1. What motivated Charles Barbier to invent night writing? A. He wanted to help blind children read. B. He was a teacher at the Royal Institute for Blind Youth. C. He needed a silent communication method for soldiers. D. He was inspired by Louis Braille's early experiments. Answer C. He needed a silent communication method for soldiers. Charles Barbier developed night writing for battlefield use to avoid speaking aloud or using light. 2. Why was Barbier's original system not practical for blind readers? A. It used only visual symbols. B. It required expensive technology. C. It had too many dots and was hard to read by touch. D. It was only effective in daylight. Answer C. It had too many dots and was hard to read by touch. Barbier's 12-dot system was too complex for practical tactile reading. 3. At what age did Louis Braille become blind? A. 3. B. 5. C. 10. D. 15. Answer: B. 5. Louis became completely blind at the age of 5, after an eye infection spread. 4. How did Louis Braille modify Barbier's system? A. He removed the use of punctuation. B. He expanded it into a 12-dot cell. C. He simplified it into a 6-dot system. D. He translated it into Latin. Answer C. He simplified it into a 6-dot system. Braille reduced the dot count from 12 to 6, making it easier and faster to read. 5. When did France officially adopt Braille's system? A. During Louis Braille's lifetime. B. Immediately after Barbier introduced it. C. 2 years after Louis Braille's death. D. Not until the 20th century. Answer C. 2 years after Louis Braille's death. France adopted Braille's system in 1854, 2 years after his passing. Part 2: Vocabulary and Context. 6. In the sentence, Barbier believed in its potential and decided to offer it to a different audience. What does potential mean? A. Danger. B. Usefulness. C. Limitation. D. Confusion. Answer B. Usefulness. Potential in that sentence refers to the usefulness or promise of Barbier's system. 7. The phrase Braille remains a powerful symbol of inclusion and accessibility suggests that Braille A. is only used in Europe. B. is outdated and decorative. C. provides equal opportunities for the blind. D. is mainly used for currency and signage. Answer C. provides equal opportunities for the blind. Braille is a tool of inclusion and accessibility, empowering blind readers. Part 3: Short answer. 8. What role did the Royal Institute for Blind Youth play in Louis Braille's life and in the development of the Braille system? Answer in 2-3 sentences. The Royal Institute was where Louis studied and later taught. It exposed him to the limitations of existing reading methods and introduced him to Barbier's system, which he later refined into Braille. 9. What is the significance of the awl in both the beginning and end of Louis Braille's story? Answer in 2-3 sentences. The awl caused the injury that blinded Louis as a child. Ironically, the same type of tool is used to punch Braille dots into paper, turning an instrument of pain into one of empowerment. 10. In what way can the invention of Braille be seen as a collaboration between Barbier and Braille, even though they didn't formally work together? Answer in 2-4 sentences. Barbier's invention laid the groundwork for tactile reading. Although he wasn't trying to help the blind directly, his night writing inspired Braille to improve and adapt the system for blind readers. Braille's simplification made it practical and revolutionary. Bonus: inference and critical thinking. 11. Why do you think Braille's invention wasn't immediately accepted, even though it was clearly more efficient than previous systems? Answer in 3-4 sentences. Many sighted educators were resistant to change and could not read Braille themselves, which made them less willing to adopt it. Familiarity with embossed letters felt more comfortable to them, even if it was less effective for blind students. Institutional inertia and discomfort with unfamiliar systems often delay the acceptance of innovation. Here are clear and simple explanations of each word, written at an essay level of English, along with an example sentence for each.